I personally got involved in this work, as John just indicated, when I was, after I finished up undergraduate school at Johns Hopkins and worked in an inner-city daycare center for poor children. I was a product of that time. I hoped that if we could just get poor preschoolers off to a better start, that they'd have a better chance of succeeding in school and later on in life. But for many of the children in the classroom that I worked in, it was too little and too late. I witnessed children being beaten up on the front steps of our daycare center. What was striking to me, though, was that in spite of the fact that these children all came from deeply impoverished neighborhoods, that some of the children were doing okay. And those children who were doing okay had parents who were invested in them. When I finished up undergraduate or graduate school, my colleagues and I developed the program that we're here to celebrate this evening, and that's the Nurse Family Partnership. And as John indicated, it's currently operating in 170 local program operating sites in 21 states, serving 20,000 families a year. And while we are thrilled with that, there are 600,000 mothers giving birth to babies in our society who could benefit from this program. So we know we've got a long way to go. In our case, the nurses who are working in this program have three major goals. The first is to help women improve the outcomes of pregnancy by helping them improve their prenatal health, and in particular, to cut down on the use of substances like alcohol, illegal drugs, and tobacco that can compromise the developing fetal brain. The second major goal is to help parents improve the health and development of their children by learning how to provide more competent care for their children. Parents care about their children. Almost every parent cares about their child. What they don't have is the support and the skill to do the work competently. And the other piece, the other goal for the program is to help families become more economically self-sufficient by helping them develop a vision for their future. So, a crucial element of the program is that the program focuses on young mothers having first babies. That's really important because young mothers are going through profound biological and social and behavioral changes associated with the delivery of that first child that increases their sense of vulnerability and their receptivity to offers of help. These kinds of programs are very hard to deliver and to produce successful results with. Focusing on that first pregnancy and offering nurses at that time, we think is a crucial element in an effective strategy to help parents take control of their lives because they have that sense of vulnerability and they believe that nurses are individuals who can help them. So one young mother that one of the nurses was visiting, we'll call her Bonnie, was a frightened 17-year-old who, when the nurse started visiting her, was living in the dirt basement of her roach-infested home. When the nurse went out to the first visit, she learned that Bonnie was a drinker, she smoked, and the first thing that the nurse asked her was, well, now that you're pregnant, are you planning to cut down on your use of tobacco? And Bonnie's response was, well, you know, this baby's taking everything else away from me. It's not going to take my cigarettes away, too. The nurse learned that Bonnie had tortured babies whom she babysat for, and that she, as a child, not surprisingly, had been tortured. The nurse came back after learning about Bonnie and said, you know, Bonnie is off the charts in terms of her risk for abusing or even killing her child. But I think I can help her. She said, because Bonnie said to me that I'm afraid that I'm going to do this to my own baby. The nurse looked at that as a cry for help, and the next visit soon after that, went into the home and said to Bonnie, what would happen if you woke up in the middle of the night and your baby was crying and you didn't know what to do and who to turn to? Is there anybody you could turn to? And she said, yeah, you know something, there's Grandma Smith. And the nurse said, okay, then do you know her phone number? Yes. Let's write her phone number on this piece of paper. Let's tape it up beside the phone so that when your baby gets home, this is all happening during pregnancy, by the way. When you get home, and if this happens, that she's crying and inconsolably, you'll know where to find Grandma Smith's number and call her and she'll come and help you out. Bonnie ended up delivering her baby prematurely. But remarkably, for this young, highly compromised young lady, she ended up going to the neonatal intensive care unit every single day after school to visit her baby. And when the baby and Bonnie were and the baby was discharged, Bonnie took her to live with Grandma Smith, and they lived together for 6 months until her boyfriend got out of jail, and he started coming to the visits as well. And they ended up moving in together, managing the care of this child remarkably well. And for us, knowing the kind of risk that Bonnie herself had presented with, and her boyfriend, and the success and the way that they had managed the care of this child, led us to believe early on that we really might have a hold of something. That this is Bonnie and her boyfriend might represent a class of families in our society who really might be helped with this program. We realized that we needed to test this program under the most scientifically rigorous methods possible. And so we have begun all of this work with testing this program in scientifically controlled, randomized controlled trials. And it's that research foundation that has formed the basis for our determining the effectiveness of the program over the last nearly 30 years. When we look across all of these programs that we've been tested in the randomized controlled trials, it's those findings that replicate across trials that give us greatest confidence. One of the findings that's given the program the greatest attention in this country and elsewhere is this 48% reduction in the rates of state verified reports of child abuse and neglect in our first trial. And that treatment controlled difference in the rates of child abuse and neglect was 80% for the families who are at greater risk. How is it that what we do with mothers during pregnancy and the first 2 years of the baby's life might really have an impact on things like whether the women themselves get involved with the criminal justice system? Well, the answer, I think, goes back to this very basic biological instinct to protect oneself and one's children. One young mother, after being visited by the nurse, said to her nurse, "You know, I'm going to break off my relationship with Tony." And the nurse said, "Really? How come?" And her response was, "You don't know this, but Tony's involved with the drug trade. And that's not good for me, and that's not good for my baby."